So, I recently took part in a game jam. For those who don't know, a game jam is a competition where developers attempt to make the best game they can from scratch. Typically, this is over a short period of time. A theme is usually given, and the creators will design their game to fit around this theme. Once the jam is done, there is a period of voting, where people give each game they play a score, and this is based around a variety of categories. Then the games are ranked based on these votes, revealing the best games. The game jam that I took part in was hosted by a popular YouTuber called Noah, who runs a game development channel called Blackthorn Prod. It took place between January 23rd and January 29th. The theme was less is more, and I think you can interpret that in a few ways, which is good. It means people will come up with a good variety of games. Unfortunately, for my game, things didn't quite go according to plan. Although the jam took place over a period of a week, I decided to join with only 3 days remaining. And that was my first mistake. My thoughts for the theme was to keep the artwork simple. I wanted to make the game with simple shapes and limited colours. I also wanted to make a currency system where the less you have, the better. My plan was to make a simple tower defence game. I wanted to set the game into stages, where the player would be able to place a variety of towers around a path, with the aim of destroying some enemies before they reach the end of the path. To buy the towers, I introduced a currency called corruption, and buying the towers would add to this. If the corruption reached a value too high, you lose a stage. Destroying the enemies would reduce the corruption, but if they reached the end, it would add to it. And that should have been enough. With 3 days to make it, that would have been more than enough. But this is where I made my next mistake. I made the scope too big for the game. In my plan, I'd set out to also make a second, longer term currency system, randomly generated stages, and dynamic, interchangeable colour schemes. I've never even made a tower defence game before, so why I thought adding all this extra stuff was a good idea, I don't know. But regardless, I began to make the game. I reached the last hour before submission and managed to get all the core features I planned for into the game. However, at this point, I still hadn't tested a build of the game or even made any music. I rushed to code a music script and recorded the first thing I could on keyboard. For the submission, I wanted to make the game so it could be played in the browser. Little did I know, making this sort of build in Unity wasn't the fastest. With 10 minutes remaining, the game still wasn't ready. I couldn't get it working on the browser. I had to make a decision whether to keep trying for these final moments or just make it into a Windows exe file. I decided to go with the latter, and with just a few minutes remaining, I uploaded the game. Now finally submitted, I got to play the game I'd spent the last 3 days creating. Everything seemed to be fine, it was running properly, I passed through the first stage without an issue. And then I realised. I'd set the music system in Unity to not be destroyed when passing to a new scene, but hadn't coded in for it to detect if it was already in the scene we had moved to. What this meant, for anyone playing the game, the music system would just duplicate itself every time they passed through each stage, over and over. Things got worse. I'd also not adjusted my game to work for different screen resolutions. This meant anyone playing at a different resolution would only be able to see part of the game screen, leaving the game unplayable. Although I'd found these bugs only moments after the jam had ended, you were not allowed to re-upload any files after the deadline. So I had to leave my game with the bugs. After a week of voting had passed, the results were released. Towers received 6 ratings with an overall raw score of 4 out of 5. The actual overall score for the jam was less than this, because the number of ratings were so few. This score determines where the game ranks in the jam. Surprisingly, music was the best category for the game, despite spending very little time on it and it being so buggy. Overall, Towers ranked at number 434. And my final big mistake for the jam was not getting enough people to try the game. I could have used better images on a landing page to entice people to play or comment on other developers' games. I would have loved to see how the game would have played without the bugs, so I plan to do another game jam in the next month or so, and hopefully I can learn from the mistakes I made during this one. So that was my video for how not to game jam. Although I really enjoyed the process and was happy with the game, I just didn't give myself enough time or get the scope right. I've since fixed these bugs, and if you want to give the game a go, I've put a link in the description. If you don't know already, I'm currently in the middle of development of a game called The Foxtail, which is available for Wishlist on Steam. If you want to hear more about that, I'll be posting regular devlogs about the development of the game. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this video, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.